All right, all right. Good morning to the entire team, Warden. Folks, I'm really excited to be here with you today just for a few minutes because I want to teach you guys about something that, in my opinion, you're going to need for 2023, right? And maybe you're that person right now that when you look at what I'm about to teach you, you're like, yep, totally needed that, because I believe that every single agent in this entire nation could do a different job of what they've been doing when it comes to this one subject matter. Because I believe what I'm going to teach you is really going to impact your 2023. And then the neat thing also is that you absolutely need this in order to be very successful. So, what is that? You might be thinking, okay, Ashley, yeah, you've got to have a great attitude. No, yes, you do need that, but that is not what I'm going to talk about today. Ashley, yeah, it's all about activity, right? Because if I attach the double A's at attitude and activity, then guess what? I'm going to be wildly successful. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. You'll be wildly successful if you have those double A's, the attitude and activity, but those mean nothing if you don't have the underlying foundation of this one thing I'm about to teach you. Are you ready for this? All right, so check this out. There are 35,000 decisions per day that you physically are going to make. So, what if these decisions, when you add them up over time, actually they're going to impact your effectiveness over the quality of your life? Now, okay, let me go ahead and repeat this, okay? Your brain, your entire beautiful brain that God made for you, that created you just for you, that's our conscious, that's our heart, that's everything, that's our character, is this amazing brain in our head, right? 35,000 decisions are made every single day in your brain. I know that's a lot of darn decisions when you really think about it. But what if these decisions, right? What if these decisions, there's a science behind the processes made as to what separates the great decision makers versus the ones that is everybody else? How do you become a great decision maker? Does that make sense? Because there's actually a science behind it. There's studies that have been made that we can teach you on how to become a great decision maker. Because in your 2023, you're going to be faced with making decisions. You're going to be faced with, how am I going to respond in this situation? And I want to armor you with the right kind of thought process on how to be a great decision maker. So here we go. And again, what if the burdens you face were really the consequences of the small decisions you made or you chose to make last year, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago? Let me repeat that. What if the consequences, what if the burdens that you're experiencing right now were really the consequence of a decision, of a response that you chose to make years ago? Kind of scary if you really think about it, right? Like, you are where you are in life right now because of the decisions that you make, right? So let's think about it like this. What if perhaps you have not, because you have sown not the right decisions, the great decisions? You have not because you have sown not when it comes to the responses and the decisions that you've actually been making, right? So you're like, oh, well, it's just my luck. No, it's not. It's your decisions. Oh, it's the leads. It's this, it's that, it's the blame game. And you blame everything else for everybody when really it's you, right? You're the one choosing to make the decisions. You're the one choosing to say the words coming out of your mouth. You're the one that's choosing to think a certain way. Does that make sense? And all these thoughts and all these words dictate our actions. Isn't that the craziest part of it, right? So what about these files that have been downloaded into our brain, our neuroscience, I guess you could say, all these millions of files into our brain? Because of what? Because of the decisions we chose to make, right? Don't blame it on your brain. Don't blame it on, oh, well, this is how I was brought up. Then change. I hate especially for this, how people say, oh, well, you just need to be a better agent. You need to be a better decision maker. No, I can't stand it when people say, oh, you just need to be a better this, a better mom, a better agent, a better everything. No. It's not about doing. It's not about being a better person. What is that? Like, who is that? What is that? It's about doing something different to get a different result. So if you are where you are in life right now and you're proud of that, excellent. In my opinion, maybe maybe think that maybe you are a great decision maker, right? I believe that all of us, even myself, we are faced, like I said, with so many decisions. And we have to be the ones on how in the world, what decision are we going to make? So here we go, guys. There's 3 things I'm going to teach you. Here we go. Ready? Get your iPad pens out and let's rock this out. You ready? Number 1, on how we can become a great decision maker. Number 1 is you've got to temper your brain's extreme impulses. That's a big sentence. Ready? You've got to temper your brain's extreme impulses. What's your brain style? What does that mean? In other words, all of our brains filter information. They assess risk and they decide, hey, what am I going to do in this situation right now? Because sometimes a lot of the things that we're faced with, it's a split-second decision that we've got to make in that moment. And the craziest thing is that has the ability to change the way we outlook our day, how we perceive things, how we perceive our seniors, how we perceive ourselves, right? Check this out. So when you're walking up to a house, right, and you see a dog, you're going up to a client's house, a potential client, you see a dog. Now, what's the first thing you're going to think about? That's your brain style. That's your brain's impulse. The moment you think something, that's a brain impulse. What's your brain style? Are you thinking, oh, you know what? That dog is so cute. Oh my gosh, he's so fluffy, right? Or are you thinking, holy sugar nuts, that dog is about to bite my leg, right? What impulse is in your brain right now? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but what I am saying is neither is wrong, but it's the balance of the 2 impulses that make for a skilled decision maker. Being protective, but not fearful, nor naive and stupid, right? Like if you see a pit bull that's not on a leash, that's probably really stupid, right? But they're like, oh my gosh, I can never go to a house that has a dog on the front porch because I'm going to get bit by a dog. Make sense? So we've got to temper our brain's extreme impulses. You guys hear it all the time on stage. You hear it on the conference calls. Hey, you've got to stay level-headed. Temper your brain's extreme impulses. Maybe perhaps you're the type that wings it. What if you have curbed it to actually becoming competent? In other words, if you could curb those extreme impulses, that if you're being faced with the decision of actually mastering your craft and you're like, oh, I'm just going to wing it. I've got an incredible sales approach and I'm just a charming Charlie kind of a person. Everybody loves me and you have an incredible personality. Okay. And that's why you're not getting the results that you want. That's why you only made $50,000 this year and not 6 figures. Make sense? Maybe that's why you've not built a team yet, because you keep thinking that you're just going to wing it versus actually understanding the processes and making the right decisions to understand and master this craft. What if you could temper that brain impulse of winging it and then actually curb it with being competent, right? You see, maybe you're the Mr. and Mrs. Know-it-all, right? We get it. You know everything, right? But what if Miss Johnson really needs every single detail, right? In the SHIP program, maybe in the active living benefits, maybe because you know it all, maybe you need to curb that brain impulse of wanting to say every single freaking detail on the entire planet that everybody needs to know. And then your presentation is 3 to 4, 5 hours long and you've not even gotten to step 4 yet. Maybe you need to trim the excess fat out of your presentation. Since if you are an extreme impulse of I know everything and I have to know everything right now, and I'm going to tell Miss Johnson every single detail. Hey, Miss Johnson needs to know the information, but does she need to know all the information to an extreme? No. Does that make sense? So maybe you just curb that a little bit, temper that brain impulse, and just trim the excess fat off your presentation. So trim the excess fat from your perspective, right? Because some of us, we think so like, oh, it's this a massive amount of perspective that you've got going on. But put yourself in Greg's shoes, right? Put yourself in your direct coach's shoes. Maybe even in your senior shoes. What if you could just slow down? So, because sometimes maybe you're so quick to judge a situation. And that's why I'm saying is like, sometimes you need to trim the excess fat from your perspective. That instead of thinking you know and you assume that this is exactly what's going on in the situation, even though you haven't gone to the source, hey, temper that brain impulse. think level-headed. And I'm going to teach you something cool because I love this one. And I really believe, especially if you're a leader that's watching this right now on the Warden team, okay, like Mr. Dylan Ward, Cody Lowry. I know we've got a Holly Sutton, Cody Warner, and Chris Leone, Whitney Hackney. Folks, I want you to hear me out. You ready? I practice this thing every single day when it comes to decision making. And this is the number 2 one on how to really become a great decision maker. Number 2 is this. You need to switch from true false to multiple choice. Let me repeat that. You need to switch from true false to multiple choice. Generating options is a game changer when it comes to being a great decision maker. According to the Ohio State University, generating 3 options when it comes to decision making will improve the quality of your decision making. If you can come up with a 3 multiple choice answer that when you're trying to make a decision in that moment, go it and narrow it down to 3 multiple choice. Don't just say, yep, I got to act this way. I got to do it this way. That was the only decision I could make. No. It's a multiple choice. It's not a true false. It's a multiple choice, right? Actually, there is no answer here. It has to be that. No, there's a multiple choice. There's always a way, and there's always different ways on how to handle a decision that you're about to make. So, for example, this will take mental and emotional labor. They call it cognitive labor. Ohio State University said that. They said, look, you've got to have a mental and an emotional labor. The number 1 way to predict a good decision maker, you ready for this? A whopping 66% of the variation of you becoming a great decision maker lies in this statement right here, that if you could exercise optimism, taking a proactive perspective of hope and a possibility, and I say possibility, not impossibility, actually taking a proactive perspective that when you're about to make a decision that's multiple choice, that you can exercise optimism in the potential answers and then make an actual decision, right? That's proactive, that gives hope, that's actually possible, okay? That you look at all the answers potentially of all the solutions to this challenge or this obstacle. Now, that doesn't mean that you wish for the best, okay? Let me kind of break this exercising optimism down, okay? Because I would consider myself an optimistic realist, right? So in other words, I understand potentially the way the world is, but I also see what it could be. You see, so when it comes to exercising optimism, it's not about, oh, I'm going to wish for the best. I'm going to wish for the best. No. Exercising optimism means knowing there are options even when you can't see them yet or understand them. I'll repeat that. Exercising optimism is knowing there are options even when you can't see them yet or understand them. And let me teach you this one thing. You know that person that might be sitting in the audience right now and they're listening to this and like, oh, well, I'll believe it when I see it, right? Let me talk to that person right now. If you're that person right now that says, I'm not going to go make a decision, I'm not going to go do this until I see it. How in the world did somebody even come up with a chair, an airplane, a car, a computer, an iPhone, an iPad, paper? Somebody had to visualize it. Somebody had to believe in this imagination first for it to what? Come to life. Makes sense? So what's more powerful, seeing it or believing it? Believing it. You have to believe it to see it. You've got to go act so then you can go learn and then go do, and then you're going to fail over and over and over again. And then bam, here comes the airplane. Here comes the iPhone. Here comes a computer. Here comes a chair. Here comes a house that's built from brick. Somebody had to visualize that. You see, it's not true false. You can invent solutions to an unsolvable problem. You can invent solutions to an unsolvable problem, Whitney. You can do that, Blythe. You can invent solutions. It's like hitting your first promotion. You may think it's a mountain. You may think that hitting that first promotion to AG2, AG1, senior sales manager, senior agent, it might be a mountain. But all it really was a ton. I mean, again, if we're doing 35,000 decisions every day, gosh, hitting a promotion was really just an accumulation of a lot of small decisions made right over time. That's what makes a big difference. It's making all the decisions, and sometimes the wrong and the right. But if you could make more of the right decisions based on what I'm teaching you, if you could temper your brain, if you could also go to a multiple choice. And sometimes when you don't know what the answer is because you need some more choices, ask your direct coach. Hey, what would you do if you're in my situation? How should I respond in this situation? Why? Because your direct coach, your Blythe, guess what? Your Blythe Barnes, your Dusty Todds, guess what? They've already probably been there, and they probably already failed 1,000 times, and they can tell you, don't do what I did. Please do this. And thanks for coming to me, by the way, so I could help you. You see an example, for example, $83 a day. $83 a day, that's going to get you 20,000 submitted AP. So if you're trying to get to that first promotion of an agent, $83 a day. Break it down to the small ridiculousness of it. 5 times a week, $83 a day. Can you do that in premium? Right? And that might mean you got to go do one more house. You got to go work past 5, 1 or 2, 3 nights a week, maybe put a Saturday in there. But if you're not where you want to be, then you've got to go do something different. You got to go do something different. For example, do you ever feel like maybe $10,000 in your savings account is a hard thing to do? Like maybe there's somebody right now. Hold on one second. Maybe there's somebody right now that's struggling, right? That you're like, man, I want to be a financial steward. You want to put $10,000 in your savings account, and it is like the biggest mountain on the planet. You see, for me, it took me a year and a half back in 2015. It was from February to May of 2016, a year and a half practically, for me to actually start saving money. And I realized I had to go make more so I could go save. Legit, right? Because I knew what my bills were. I knew the investments that I was putting back into the business. So check this out. $10,000 in savings, okay? You can invent a solution to what you think is impossible. Invent the solution. For example, for me, it was, okay, I'm going to make $10,000 a month, all right? I knew exactly what the activity was. And so therefore, I just got to put in, Ashley, if you can put this aside, make sure that you harness your budget, right? And then Ashley, every single month that you're doing over 10,000, when it comes to deposits in your checking account, go ahead. If it's 11,000, put that $1,000 into a separate savings account and don't even look at it, right? And that's how I started saving. You see, and I told myself this, I was never going to go below that. And that's what worked. So I made that decision that this is what we were going to do. And when you make a decision, or even when you're trying to create a habit, okay, don't break that habit twice, like going to the gym, right? So in other words, if I had a month that I didn't put $1,000 into my savings account, then I'm like, I can't miss it the next month. Because if I miss it the next month, then what's going to happen next is a really bad downward effect, which means it's going to start disrespecting myself because I put this goal, I put this expectation that, hey, look, I can go ahead and make and put this $1,000 every single month into my savings and it's going to grow. But if I miss it more than twice, it starts chipping away at me, my respect of myself. Does that make sense? It's disappointing me. And what matters the most is what you think about yourself. It's not what other people think. What matters most is what you think about yourself, right? And then, of course, the number 3 one, and then we're going to be done. You ready for this? So we've got temper your brain's impulses. Number 2 is when you're looking at decision making, it's not true false. There's not just one solution. There's multiple solutions. And then the last one is this: invest in the compounding effect. Invest in the compounding effect. Whether it takes you 1 year to hit your first promotion, whether it takes you 4 years to hit RVP, whether it takes you 6 years to hit junior partner, understand it's an accumulation of a million small decisions compounded over time that will make for the big results. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace. You're not going to hit partner next month. Give yourself some grace. Think about the next step. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I've never known anybody to actually ever eat an elephant, okay? But I would imagine that's a very tough and difficult task. But what do? One bite at a time. One bite at a time, one step at a time, one prayer at a time, one tear that you wipe away from your cheek through the pain, through the suffering, through the crap that you've got to go through. You need to realize you're going to go through hard because you don't want it to be easy. Therefore, if it was easy, it wouldn't mean anything to you. You've got to understand this, that when you look at Romans 5:3 in the Bible, that through your struggles, it creates perseverance, perseverance, hope, and then hope, character. So, in other words, you're going to go through crap because it creates all these wonderful characteristics about yourself. But it's how we perceive it, it's how we respond, that when life smacks us in the face, breathe. Don't go act out of this massive impulse. What are you going to do? You're going to breathe. You're going to make all these decisions and say, okay, what's the right decision that I can make in this moment? If you don't know, go ask your direct coach. And then understand, give yourself grace that it's going to be this compounding effect over time that's going to make all the difference. So, folks, 2023 is upon us. We've got the national conference. It's going to be amazing. And I would just say this: your best life is upon you. The greatest version of you lies inside of you, and the world, your community, your seniors, your family, your children, your spouses, they need to see that potential come out of you. And I believe all of us, myself included, you've not seen anything yet. You've not even seen the best version of you yet, right? Don't let your dreams die in the graveyard. You need to act with a sense of urgency. You are absolutely amazing, and you have everything you need to go to the next level and experience the life that you could literally, that you used to pray about, is going to come to life. But it starts here. It starts with the decisions. It starts with the responses. So, folks, thank you so much for having me. And I know you guys are going to have an incredible boot camp.